And she had the news on television. She urgently told me I better come in and see what's happening. I knew my brother was flying to Los Angeles as we had plans to celebrate his 52nd birthday on it, which was September 12th. We were going to go to the Angels baseball game against the Seattle Mariners. I tried calling his cell, and there was no answer. I didn't know that almost at that very moment, Captain Charles Burlingame, who as a teenager flew model airplanes in the parks of Anaheim, was in a fight with the terrorists who burst into his cockpit. At just after 6 o'clock, Chic was in hand-to-hand combat with knife-wielding extremists. The struggle lasted for almost 5 minutes. Like several pilots that day, Chic's military training as a Navy fighter pilot underscored his captain of the ship attitude, with the highest priority of preserving safety of the passengers and crew. Like all the flights that day, he was murdered before the plane slammed into its destination, the Pentagon. The shocking sight of passenger planes being slammed into buildings was a calculated act of psychological terror. The attacks were meant to instill fear, panic, and uncertainty. Instead, the country reacted with courage, compassion, and moral clarity. The enduring legacy of that day is the remarkable heroism and generosity of the American people. Americans did not turn outward with hatred or violence. We turned to each other, armed with nothing more than American flags and countless acts of kindness. In the darkest hour, human decency triumphed over human depravity. The courage of FDNY firefighters and New York City and Police Authority and Port Authority police can never be overstated. When they rushed into the World Trade Center, they were met with a surreal scene of horrifying dimensions. Charred body parts, shoes, and glass littered the streets. Most unnerving of all was the sight and sound of scores of people who chose to jump in order to escape the inferno. Their bodies raining down, exploding on impact. This is what they saw. And still these men went forward, carrying 100 pounds of gear, knowing that there was a good chance they would not survive the day. 403 brave souls died. 343 firefighters, 60 police officers. And remember this, of the almost 2,800 people killed at Ground Zero, more than 1,100 were never found. Only 293 bodies were found intact. Only 12 of those could be identified by sight. More than 20,000 body parts have been found, and 6,000 of those could fit inside a test tube. For many families, the site is not just a memorial, it is the sacred burial ground of their loved one. The terrorists selected transcontinental flights, ensuring that the planes would be filled with the maximum loads of fuel. The Pentagon is 3 times larger than the Empire State Building. Chic's plane, weighing 182,000 pounds, slammed into the granite walls at more than 530 miles per hour. The plane was transformed into an enormous mass of energy, plowing forward like a horizontal volcanic eruption. The plane was carrying 5,300 gallons of fuel. At the moment of impact, 720 gallons of fuel in the wings ignited the outside of the building, sending a fireball twice the height of the Pentagon up through the roof and out in every direction. As the belly of the plane penetrated the structure, another 4,450 gallons of fuel exploded in a blast far more powerful than the initial fireball. By the time it stopped, the mass of debris that once was Flight 77 had traveled more than 310 feet from the impact point. It had destroyed and severely damaged more than 50 21-inch wide steel reinforced concrete columns that were holding up the building. Decelerating from full speed to a dead stop in a distance that created a gravitational pull of 30 Gs, 3 times the force fighter pilots are trained to withstand. From the moment of impact, the entire event had taken place in 0.8 of a second. This didn't stop first responders at the Pentagon, who sustained terrible burns, pulling hundreds from the fire. Very little was found in all of the debris there. Chic's wife hoped they would find his wedding band, but it certainly melted in the inferno. Searchers in the FBI only found 2 things that belonged to him: his passport, which he carried in his crew kit, and a laminated prayer card from our mom's funeral 10 months before. The card will be exhibited at the National September 11th Museum in New York, scheduled opened in a year from now. United Flight 93, believed to be headed for the US Capitol, where both houses of Congress were in session, became the first counterattack in the war on terror. In the blink of an eye, 40 unarmed citizens, just like us, unarmed, assessed their situation, took a vote, and decided to take back the plane or die trying. Their decisive act of courage inspired an entire nation to follow their lead and do something. We did. 25 urban rescue and search teams activated from all over the country. They rushed to Ground Zero in the Pentagon. California sent 6 teams. They left on military transports and drove all night in convoys with tons of equipment, arriving in New York and Virginia the following day. More than 300 canine teams scoured the sites looking for victims or their remains. A medical team from Dallas arrived in Virginia with 70 square feet of skin graft for burn victims. The massive rescue and recovery effort at Ground Zero involved some 90,000 people over the 10-month period. The media was no reflection about September 11th, and the nation's response to that day is complete without the recognition of the commitment, accomplishments, and heroic sacrifices of our military forces. Whether in the mountains of Afghanistan or the sands of Iraq, they have refused to flinch in the face of a brutal enemy that does not abide by the same rules of engagement which the military imposes upon itself. When the plane struck on 9/11, thousands of these American patriots left their civilian jobs, suspended their college studies, put their futures on hold, and left their families to enlist and defend liberty far from home. In the years since September 11th, they have carried the heaviest burden. After September 11th, Tim Meade, another fellow who's become a friend like Jeff and is a longtime senior executive with the Angels, contacted me. Over the years, we've sustained a really valuable friendship. The Angels wanted to create the appropriate tribute to a huge Angel fan, Chic Burlingame. In the spring of 2002, I threw out the first pitch for Major League Baseball in front of a sold-out stadium for that game. Navy SEALs had parachuted into the stadium onto the outfield as the crowd was chanting, USA, USA. The ball I threw had been delivered by one of the Navy SEALs, the team leader. As you know, they went on to win the World Series that year. And I know there was an extra angel in the outfield. Finally, let me share with you the words on the back of the prayer card that Chic was carrying. When I read these words, I think of our brave firefighters, police officers, first responders, military heroes, and of course my brother, Captain Charles Burlingame from Anaheim, California. I did not die. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that glow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the autumn's gentle rain. When you waken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circle of flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Thank you, Anaheim.
The United States Fire Service enjoys a rich heritage with many of our traditions dating back over 200 years, and one such tradition is the sounding of the bell.